From a professional soccer career to becoming a driving force in the mortgage industry, Brian Covey has shown what it takes to find your competitive edge. Get off the sidelines and get in the game. Find your competitive edge with Brian Covey.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another edition of Finding Your Competitive Edge. So today, I am super excited because one of my good friends and mentors, Renee, introduced me to Hal. And I can tell you guys, I grabbed his book as quick as I could right here. We're going to dive into some of this. But what I want to tell you guys about Hal, number one, is he's a family man, which resonates with me over 14 years being married, 2 kids. And I think about people that are making an impact today. It's beyond what you do in your business. It's beyond what you just do and you see on social media. It's the things that actually can change your life and then have a ripple effect and change others. So you're going to buckle up today because not only are we going to dive into the miracle morning, but also some of Hal's stories and how he's overcome adversity from a very young age and some stories that resonated with me to what he's been able to do and what he's building. And why this is important to you is, look, for a lot of us, we don't consider ourselves morning people. We struggle with routines. We have these kind of limiting beliefs. We're wondering, how do people get done what they get done today? We're going to dive into a lot of that, not just on a strategic level, but also the tactics to help you win your day and actually become the best version of yourself. So Hal Elrod, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. All of that sounds good, man. I'm here for it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, you impressed me because I tell people this story sometimes. Is it wasn't really until sophomore year I was overweight and I needed to make a significant change in my life. I go into all the details. I pushed myself to become a morning person.
Okay.
And it was forced out of pain and a lot of things that I look back and I was like, how do you do some of this? And so when I grabbed your book, The Miracle Morning, I got to tell you this. My wife looked at it when I first got it. She's like, oh yeah, you and your morning stuff, man. Like, I'm glad that worked for you. So then I would love to start with that because a lot of people may be thinking, yeah, the mornings, man, just let me sleep in. I'm going to get up when I want to get up and all of that stuff. But talk to me about the importance of, you've really discovered, I think, you talk about the miracle morning, but a real secret that I think we can all learn from there.
Yeah. Well, and it for me, I wasn't a morning person for my entire life. And I think it's really important for people to understand why most of us are that way. Now there's chronorhythms and there's various scientific perspectives to it, but I've seen more people go from never believing they could become a morning person, and we're talking in the millions now, to reading The Miracle Morning and becoming a morning person, not like against their will, but going, oh my gosh, I love starting my day this way. I have so much energy. My mental health is improving. I'm happier. I'm healthier. I'm, so on and so forth. And so for me, I wasn't a morning person. And then I just started looking at what do the world's most successful people do for their, for their personal development. And this was 2008 when the economy had crashed and I had crashed with it. I had lost over half of my income and my house was foreclosed on. It was just in a really bad, emotionally, physically, mentally, financially, you name it. I was at a rock bottom. And I kept coming across articles that talked about morning routines. The world's most successful people start their day with a morning ritual. And I'm like, no. Where's the success plan for those that wake up at like 8 or, at the last minute when they want to and hit the snooze button a few times? And I don't remember I wish I remembered the article, but in full transparency, I don't remember the article that actually sucked me in and changed my paradigm. But I remember the lesson. And it was the idea that how you start your day sets the tone, the context, and the direction for the rest of your day. So if you wait until the last possible minute to get out of bed, until you have to be somewhere, do something, or answer to somebody else, you're starting your day with procrastination, with resistance. You feel like you're waking up not because you want to, but because you have to. And if we look at why, I alluded this a few minutes ago, where this came from. If you think about this, growing up, how many of us got out of bed because we wanted to? For at least Monday through Friday, you got out of bed because you were forced to get out of bed by your parents. Yes. And while our brain was developing at a young age, we naturally learned to resist and resent the act of waking up before we had to. And so, or when we had to, against our will. And so it makes sense that through our formative years, we maintain this belief that goes, I hate waking up early. I only do it because my mom and dad make me do it. But then you turn 18, you go out of the house, and now it's this downward spiral into like, I'm going to sleep in, I'm going to stay up late. And what I realized is if I want to change my life, I have to change how I start my day so that I can start every day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state. Now I wasn't sure if it would work. I'm like, I was scared. Like many people listening, like, I don't know. And, but it worked. It changed my life so fast. Within 2 months, I doubled my income. I started training for a 52-mile ultra marathon, and I had never run before. And I went to my wife. I said, sweetheart, we've doubled our income in 2 months. I'm training for this marathon. This morning routine is responsible for all of it. It feels like a miracle. And without skipping a beat, she goes, it's your miracle morning. I go, I love that, right? And the rest is kind of history. That's where, for me, it became a permanent fixture in my life, and I started teaching to other people, and eventually, wrote the book. And I had no idea, of course, that it would, become so widespread as it has.
Well, yeah, because it's been on, TV shows. You got people picking this up, and it's so cool. As I've shared some things, how many of my friends have never really shared it with me? But like, oh yeah, I know that book. Yeah, that one's, and like millions of copies sold. But I love that you point this out, Hal, because I've got teenagers now, right? We've got an 8-year-old, 15-year-old, and 16-year-old. And you're exactly right. It is almost programmed in them of like, man, we hate waking up. Like they can't wait for the weekend to go, I'm going to sleep in. And so you're almost programming the opposite of what's there. For the parents out there, I'd love you to speak to this because I'm reading through this and I'm thinking about, I got teenagers. I know a lot of our listeners have kids like we do. Is there anything we can start to share with them earlier on that we can start to give them an advantage that we didn't have because we had to learn this later in life?
Yeah. So I will say there is a book, the Miracle Morning has a series of books. There is a book called The Miracle Morning for Parents and Families. And that was written by my friends of mine now, Mike and Lindsay McCarthy, and they do the Miracle Morning with their kids every day. So their kids are not allowed screen time until they've done their Savers. And for those that don't know, Savers is the acronym of the engine that drives the Miracle Morning. It's S for silence, meditation or prayer, A for affirmations, V for visualization, E for exercise, R for reading, and then S for scribing. And if you want, we can unpack any of those. Oh, yeah. But just at a high level, that's the Miracle Morning. It's those 6 practices done to start your day in one ritual, as little as 6 minutes in a day in the morning, or 30 minutes or 60 minutes. It's very scalable. But so they adapted it for their kids. And so when I met them, my kids were not doing the Miracle Morning. And so I was like, I need to learn from you. Like, I know how to teach the Miracle Morning to adults, but not to kids. And so that book and their methodology really helped me. And it kind of gamifies the Miracle Morning for kids, so on and so forth. Now, my kids, we went through a period where we did the Miracle Morning for years. It was amazing. Now, my daughter's 14, doesn't want to do the Miracle Morning anymore. And my son's 11, and he follows his sister's lead. So he's like, oh, yeah, I don't want to do it either, Dad. I'm like, if it wasn't for her, you're my goal. You would do it. I know you would do it.
Yes.
But the Miracle Morning for Teens is a book I really want to write out of necessity, not because I have it all figured out, but because it's something that I need to figure out how to get my teens to do the Miracle Morning. And I can bribe them, but it's like, I try not to bribe when I don't have to, and try to get them to be intrinsically motivated. Let me put a bow on this with an answer to the question. And I realized this yesterday. I'm part of a dads group called Front Row Dads. And I meet with my little, it's a large group, but I meet with my little 4-person, we call it a band, every once a month. And we met yesterday. And the founder of Front Row Dads, John Vroman, he pointed something out. I was talking about healthy eating and how, I eat impeccably healthy, and how my daughter resists it and fights me on it. And Dad, you're so overbearing with this. And I'm trying to find this balance of how do I be a good parent and teach her these lessons? And also, right. And my John Vroman pointed it out. He said, Hal, you got to think about the long game. You have to zoom out. He said, when you were a teenager, did you eat healthy? I said, absolutely not. I ate far worse than my daughter does, right? Yeah. And he said, okay. He said, what's going to happen is your daughter one day, it might be when she's in college, it might be when she's in his 20s, or in her 20s, but you think about the long game, she's going to look back and she's going to go, oh, my dad was so diligent about his diet, right? And he goes, she might need to experience some pain around, health or whatever, who knows? But the point being, and we all know this as parents, it's how we live our lives that gives our kids permission to do the same. It's leading by example. And so to me, the Miracle Morning is the same thing. Is I've let go of the attachment of me controlling my kids and getting them to do what I want them to do when I want them to do it. Actually, that's not true. I haven't completely let go of it, but I try to let go of it. But in the same way of the diet analogy, I realized, oh, that's true for Miracle Morning too. The relationship with my kids is far more important than me controlling their behavior, because the relationship creates the trust and the safety for them to come to me when they really need me. And with the behavior change, I'm playing the long game, leading by example, not nagging, but guiding. And the difference, by the way, is nagging is talking at them when they're not open to hearing it. Guiding is when they're open, there's a connection, right? So nagging and lecturing is just talking at them. Guiding is when they're open, they're curious, they have a connection with you in that moment, and they want to hear. And it's a very fine dance of paying attention to, are we connected? Is this a time where they want me to share something? Anyway, so that may have been more than you asked for, but there's some distinctions.
Hey guys, it's Brian here. I hope you are enjoying the show. By the way, if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur looking to grow your personal brand, make a bigger impact, maybe increase your leads and grow your revenue, let's help you get started today by connecting up with my friends over at the Brand Builders Group. You've heard me talk about them, but if you're new here, this is definitely the first step to get you started in turning your reputation into revenue. Head over to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey. Again, to set up your free brand call, go to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey to set up a free strategy call with one of the team at Brand Builders, and they will dive into your specific goals for how you want to grow your personal brand. I can't wait to hear how it goes. Our 15-year-old son, he had to make the choice on his own, and full transparency, was one of the most limited eaters, had nothing that he would eat. They ended up having this allergy to fries, which actually turned out to be really good. But he recently decided with his weightlifting group and his lacrosse group that one of the coaches got through to him. He was open and receptive, and now he scans. He has that app, that he'll scan the food and he'll tell me if it's good or not.
Yucca, right? Yucca.
I'm going, who is this kid?
Yeah.
And so, I share all that for people listening, or just they go, man, when's that going to happen?
Yeah.
I don't know, because our other two are on different ends of the spectrum. But what I do know is you said something really important I don't want people to miss, is when they're receptive, whether you're sharing the Miracle Morning, whether you're sharing habits that you want them to gain, they watch what you're doing. And the one thing that led him to that was he wanted to work out and do some things with me and get stronger, because the older boys.
Yeah.
Well, that led him then down a path to go, well, I'm working out and I'm eating healthy. I can have a competitive edge and an advantage. And so I love you talking about that, but I want to go back to the savers, because this was something, as I'm going through this, I'm like, man, this is a brilliant acronym. I love good acronyms.
Sure.
But let's break that down for people, because as I started to go through it, I'm like, man, there's parts I'm doing and there's parts that I go, oh, that's cool. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But I should.
So I'm gonna answer this in two different ways. And first, the way the savers came about was 2008, you go back, I was at rock bottom, and I heard a quote from Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn said, your level of success in every area of life will seldom exceed your level of personal development. And when I heard that, I quantified it, and I went, okay, and I'd encourage anybody listening to quantify and ask these same questions. If your level of success in every area of life will not exceed your level of personal development, then the two questions are, what level of success do you want on a scale of 1 to 10? And what is your level of personal development on a scale of 1 to 10? And that second question is a little harder to answer, because that's a vague term. Well, what does that mean, my level of personal development? What are the daily rituals and routines that you're utilizing to develop yourself into the best version of yourself? So in your marriage, on a scale of 1 to 10, what are you doing every day to develop yourself into the level 10 version of who you need to be to sustain a thriving marriage? In your finances, what are the rituals or routines that you're doing on a daily basis, the behaviors, the habits that are ensuring that you are generating enough income to provide financial security and freedom? Also, your spending habits can be involved in that, right? But what are you learning? What are you doing? And so for me, the answers to that question in 2008, what level of success do I want? On a scale of 1 to 10, I want a 10. I want to be as happy and healthy and wealthy as I can be. I think we all do. Yeah. But my level of personal development was like at a 2, like maybe a 3 or a 4. Like I was mentally not in a good place, because I was drowning in debt. The economy had crashed. The news, life was everything was struggling. My house is foreclosed on. And so the epiphany that I had is I need to figure out what the world's most successful people do for their personal development. And I need to create the most, like basically the ultimate personal development ritual so that I can accelerate how quickly I become the person that I need to be to create and sustain the success that I want. And I was looking for 1 or 2 practices. And after Googling for about an hour, I had a list of 6 practices. They were meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and journaling. And I went, well, I can't do all of these. Like, I'm lucky to fit in 1 or 2. I'm busy. I'm tired. How am I going to do more than 1 or 2? And then I had an epiphany and I went, wait a minute. What if I did all of them? There's 6 of them. What if I woke up an hour earlier tomorrow, even though I'm not a morning person? I'm desperate. I want to change my life. I'm willing to give this a try. What if I woke up an hour earlier? And if you're listening, by the way, and an hour is like, heck no, just make it 30 minutes, all right? 30 minutes earlier. And I divided those 6 practices, so that would have been 10 minutes for each of the 6 practices over an hour, or 5 minutes for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And the next morning I woke up and I fumbled my way through meditating, and affirmations felt goofy, and visualization was distracting. I wasn't good at these things. I was a total novice. But at the end of that hour, Brian, I had so much clarity and energy and motivation. And I went, if I start every day like this, it is only a matter of time before I become the person that I need to be to create the success that I want in my life. And I mentioned earlier, it happened. I was thinking 6 to 12 months to turn it around. In less than 2 months, I doubled my income, did all these things. And that's where the Miracle Morning was born. And now I'm amongst millions of people in over 100 countries that can tell you very similar stories, them reading the book, and of course, me creating the practice. But I'm happy to dive into any of these. We don't need to go into all of them, but there are a couple in terms of the savers. So meditation became silence, and journaling became scribing. And then affirmations, visualization, exercise, and reading stayed the same, right? So that's how the savers were born. And I'm happy to unpack, at least one of them, affirmations, but whatever we have time for, I'm happy to go into detail.
Yeah, so what got my curiosity level up really high is I had someone teach me this years ago, and they went through the affirmations, which felt very foreign to me. And I hear people talk about them. I'd love to talk about it because I think people talk about journaling. There's some things there. We do talk about visualization. My dad taught me that, but I thought about these affirmations that people have. I think people struggle, or they totally, at least when I talk to them, it doesn't seem like it has the clarity. So I'm going to selfishly choose that because I think there's power in it. I know when I've done them and I've done them well, wow, you talked about the 2 months. I can think back to periods and seasons going, when I was doing those consistently, it was working. So let's dive into that.
I'm so glad you picked affirmations and we did not set this up. Everybody listening, this is organic, but it's my favorite of the savers.
Oh, and how about it?
It's my favorite because I feel like it's the most misunderstood, but it's the most effective form of personal development when you do it the right way. And I'll share first why I think affirmations have a bad rap. They're misunderstood because we've been taught by, I guess you could say, or well-meaning self-help gurus over the years to do affirmations in one of 2 faulty ways. Number 1, lie to yourself, right? And so it's like, if you're struggling financially, whatever you put after the words I am are the most powerful words you can say. So say I am wealthy and just say it over and over and over until you believe it, right? Now, there may be merit in that as opposed to saying I'm a loser, I'm broke, right? But lying to yourself is never the optimal strategy. So if you are struggling financially, the bank account's low, and you say, I am wealthy, your subconscious will speak the truth. It'll go, no, you're not. You're kidding yourself. And now you're creating an internal conflict where you're fighting. You're like, shut up. I'm doing my affirmations. I'm trying to change that, right? So it's an unhealthy internal conflict. The truth will always prevail. The second problem with affirmations is we're taught to use this flowery passive language that promises a magical result independent of any effort on our part. Give you an example. Very popular affirmation, and I think I know why it stood the test of time, even though it sounds kind of silly to me. I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance. Now, the reason I believe that affirmation has stood the test of time is because it's like taking a shot of alcohol or an antidepressant, where you look at your bank balance on your phone and you go, oh my God, I'm negative. Oh, I need to do my affirmations. I can't handle reality. I am a money magnet. Oh, that feels better. Money is flowing to me effortlessly. Thank God, because I don't have the motivation to put forth effort, and in abundance. And everything's going to be okay if I just do the affirmation, right? That is setting you up for delusion. That's not how people generate wealth or money or financial security, by telling themselves they're a money magnet. Now, again, there may be some woo-woo magic there, but I'd rather root my affirmations in truth, make them practical, actionable, and results-oriented. So I'm going to give you all 3 steps right now to create affirmations that are exactly that: practical, actionable, results-oriented. And before I share these 3 steps, I want to give you the bigger context. I follow this formula for every goal and every role in my life. So this formula, as a dad, as a husband, for my health, for my fitness, my finances, as a parent, so on and so forth. So step 1, and if you're taking notes, this would be the time to take notes. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to. In life, you don't get what you want because you want it. I want to be wealthy, or I am wealthy if it's not true. It's I'm committed to becoming wealthy, or I'm committed to earning $120,000 this year, or I'm committed to increasing my income by 20%, or my revenue by, right? In life, you get what you're committed to, and very little else other than, you get lucky, but usually luck shows up when you're following through with the things that you've committed to follow through with, right? So that's step 1. I'm committed. And so as a husband, I'm committed to blank. No matter what, there is no other option. And by the way, that's the language I use. That would be the template that I personally use, is I'm committed to blank. No matter what, there's no other option. So as a husband, I'm committed to blank no matter what, there's no other option. Of course, the blank is either the habit you're committed to, the result you're committed to, the behavior you're committed to, right? As a father, I'm committed to blank no matter what, there's no other option. In my finances, I'm committed to blank no matter what, right? So that formula, that's step 1 for every area, every role, and every goal. Step 2, affirm why it is a must for you. This is where you fuel the drive to do whatever is necessary, even if you don't feel like it, because those that only do what they feel like in life typically don't do much, because human nature is always the path of least resistance. So affirm why that commitment is so meaningful, why it is a must for you. And I usually do that, Brian, in bullet points. So there's usually not just one reason. It's usually 3, minimum 3, 4, or 5. Sometimes it's 1, but it's like, this is a must for me because I'm doing it for my wife because I promised her blank. I'm doing it for my kids because they're counting on dad for blank. I'm doing it for me because I've worked too hard to not keep going and achieve blank, right? So you're getting really clear on why you're doing this, who you're doing it for, so that when you don't feel like it, and you're tired and life smacks you upside the head and you're off track, you read those reasons and you're like, it doesn't matter if I don't feel like it. I'm fully committed for these people, for these reasons. Mm-hmm. Step 3, affirm which specific actions you will take and when. Affirm which specific actions you will take and when. As my coach used to say, my first coach always said, that's where the rubber meets the road. If all you do is affirm what you're committed to and why it's a must for you, but you don't do step 3 and get total clarity and every day reaffirm, recommit that in order to follow through with that commitment, because of these reasons, I will do these specific things, these specific days of the week at this exact time. So for example, I am committed to losing 20 pounds by the end of this year. I'm doing this so that I can have more energy, so that I can look good for my spouse, so that I can be alive for my grandkids and have energy to play with them one day, right? What are the reasons that will drive that commitment? in order to follow through, I'll limit my caloric intake every day to 1,500 quality calories. I will eliminate soda from my diet, and I will exercise for 20 minutes a day, Monday, Tuesday, with a break on Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, right? If you follow that affirmation formula with those 3 steps, the only way you can fail is to be out of integrity. But here's the beauty of this. When you read these affirmations every single day, on day 1, you might be scared and go, oh, I've never committed to that before. And I've never followed through with those actions at those times. I've tried and I've failed. Every day that you affirm it, though, you are literally creating new neural pathways in your brain and reprogramming your subconscious so that you acclimate to what you are saying, and you become it. You affirm it. You become what you affirm. In fact, if you're taking notes, write that down. You become what you affirm repeatedly. So day 1, it might feel inauthentic. By day 30, you're going, hell yes, I'm committed. And yes, here's why. And yes, I'm going to do this. In fact, I've been doing this more often than not for the last 30 days. I'm a new person. There's nothing I can't do. And you can apply that formula to every goal and every role that you have.
I love how you break that down with just the specificity of how it attaches to your goals. And then you're approaching this in such a way. I'm listening to that. I've studied a lot of the subconscious, and you're talking about things that until you've experienced it. I love you brought this up, Hal. It's like when you reprogram your subconscious mind, you become this other person, this best version. Can you talk a little deeper about that? Because people maybe aren't as familiar with that, going, my subconscious and like reprogramming neurons and all, like, man, like I don't get all that stuff. But you and you experienced it, you know the power.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you all an example. And here's the thing. I like teaching in anecdotes. I like teaching in real life stories. I have brain damage. So the thing is while I've read all the things on how the neuroscience works, I actually cannot break it down I can't regurgitate it right in an effective way. But I will tell you experientially how this works. And to me, I actually think that I learn better when I'm like, don't give me all the mumbo jumbo. Like, can you break it down in a way that is like simple to understand? And so when I learned that, I had just started doing the Miracle Morning. One of the first books I read was Think and Grow Rich, and he talks in depth about the power of the subconscious mind. And then I think I actually bought the book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. This was 20 years ago, or 15 years ago. And here's what I did. I thought, okay, reprogramming my subconscious mind. Here's one of the ways it helped me understand the power of the subconscious mind, because I read, your subconscious mind does not know the difference between reality and vividly imagined reality. I read that, and here's an analogy that helped me understand it. If you're listening right now, think about a time in your life when you've had a nightmare. And even if you've never had a nightmare, you don't remember your dreams, you can imagine someone waking from a nightmare where they were dreaming that they were being chased by a man with a knife. And when they wake up, they're breathing heavy, they're hyperventilating, they might be sweating. Their body is responding exactly as if they were actually being chased by a man with a knife. And they are in terror until it takes a good, 10 seconds to go, oh, okay, wait, I'm in my bed. I'm safe. Oh God, right? That is the power of the subconscious mind. It can literally make your heart race, you breathe heavy, and make you sweat because your body and your brain does not know the difference between reality and vividly imagined reality. So when I learned that, I thought, okay, I'm going to try this affirmations thing. Now, when I was 20 years old, and at the time I'm doing this, I was 29 that I started this affirmation in the Miracle Morning. But at 20, my car was hit head on by a drunk driver at 80 miles an hour, and I was found dead at the scene of the accident. I broke 11 bones. I suffered permanent brain damage. I was told I would never walk again. I spent 6 days in a coma, 6 seconds without oxygen to my brain. 6 minutes, and with no heartbeat, no brain, no oxygen. And so I suffered major brain damage. And I had my short-term memory in the hospital was literally where, Brian, you could visit me for an hour and we could be longtime friends. You could go get lunch in the cafeteria and come back. I'd be like, Brian, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Did you hear I was in a car accident? You go, Hal, I just spent an hour with you, right? That's how bad it was. Now, it gradually healed, right? It's been, since my car accident, it's been 25 years. It gradually healed, but it is permanent. I have very poor memory, short-term memory. So in 2009, when I started doing the Miracle Morning, 2008, I went, I'm gonna really test this. I'm going to see if I can reprogram my subconscious mind to actually improve my memory. At that time in my life, if you said, Hal, hey, can you remind me to do blank, whatever it was? I'd say, I have brain damage. I have a terrible memory. I can't remember. I'd affirm that.
Right.
And so I created affirmations that said, my brain, the human brain is a miraculous organism. I did some research, by the way, on healing before I wrote this. So I had some belief that what I was affirming was true. And I read about, can you heal your memory, right? And it was amazing that I hadn't learned that over the last 9 years, but it didn't occur to me. And I ended up learning that that the brain can heal, it can regenerate. So I started affirming every day. I didn't lie to myself and say, I have a great memory, because I wouldn't have believed that, because I had evidence to say otherwise. Mm-hmm. Like saying, I am skinny when you're overweight. It's like, well, no, but I'm not. I got to deal with reality. So I said, the brain is a miraculous organism, and I am committed to believing in and healing my brain until my memory is excellent. And I would have, and to do that, and I wrote down, I will read articles on healing the brain. I will practice. I will do these brain exercise, memory exercises that I've learned, on and on. And I think it was about 3 weeks later that I'm doing the work every day, doing the affirmations every day. And my buddy Jeremy, I remember sitting on the couch. I don't remember what he asked me to remember, but he said, hey, will you remember to call me, now or something? And I go, absolutely no problem. And we hung up the phone, and my eyes just widened. I went, wait a minute. That was an unconscious response from my subconscious. Yes. That I now believe. And I don't know if, I don't have a test to say, well, I waited 7 hours, then I remembered it. I'm not sure. But the beginning of, I can transform my memory. And all of a sudden I went from that limiting belief that I had lived with for, 9 years, it changed in 3 weeks.
Wow. I love that you share that story, because, you go through that in the car accident, and people, whether they've had a car accident that level or not, they've had something that's happened, and they don't think maybe this is for them, or how can I get from here to there and all. I had a similar, as I was preparing this, I had a similar accident in 6th grade where my brother and I, he was older, hydroplaned, wrapped around a tree, all of that. Fortunately, not to the degree yours was, but very similar, how where had a nurse not been driving by right after us, I was walking around, my brain was swelling, all the things happening. Wow. I had I don't remember any of this stuff, right? But they laid me down and stopped some of the swelling and the bleeding and all that, got me in the ambulance. And so when I'm preparing for this, I'm thinking, holy cow, what you went through to get to where you are, it shows the power of what's there. And people listening, this wasn't the only adversity you had as well. I want to make sure we don't skip over this. You also had cancer scare, filming the movie, going through all this, and you've had your set of adversity. I'd love for you to talk about that piece, because oftentimes people are like, yeah, Hal, this Miracle Morning, good for you, man. Like, you've just, ultra marathon guy, like you've just had it. Yeah. Nah, not true.
Yeah. So, the car accident was at age 20, and it was such a life-threatening, found dead at the scene for 6 minutes and told I'd never walk in, that I kind of was like, all right, it's smooth sailing from here. Like I did my life-threatening tragedy, near-death experience. And then at 37 years old, so 17 years after the car accident, which was 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare aggressive form of cancer called acute lymphoblastic leukemia. It is a blood cancer that shuts down your organs. And I was on the verge of death. My heart was failing, my lungs were failing, and my kidneys were failing. And the doctor gave me 1 to 3 weeks to live if I didn't start chemotherapy. And I'm a holistic person. I didn't want to do chemo because I didn't want to, have the side effects of all that poison, if you will, and medicine / poison. And But I reached out to some of the best holistic doctors in the country, and they all said, that's your best bet. There's nothing we can do. Your cancer is so fast acting. You're already dying. Your organs are already shutting down. This is your best bet. So I did the chemo, and I did 700 hours of chemo over 7 months, 100 hours a month. It took a horrific toll on my body. I developed anxiety and depression and all sorts of, and to this day, I've got all sorts of internal, it's like it was like I don't drink much alcohol, but it's like I was an alcoholic for 50 years. That's what it did to my body, my bones, my liver, you name it. But I'm grateful to say, I am alive. 7 years later, I'm in remission. I'm working on being the healthiest I've ever been, really clean diet, clean everything. And here's the part I'll share. I'm actually going to circle back to the affirmations because I believe that in this case, affirmation saved my life. And I'll go through this a little quicker. And this is another example of how affirmations can reprogram the subconscious. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I'm very optimistic, but I would sit there awake at night in an apartment 3 hours away from my kids where I would be living next to a hospital because I had to do so much chemo. I was too sick to drive home. So me and my dad moved in with me. We lived in this apartment and there were so many, I was afraid. I thought, what if I do everything right and I die? Because 70 to 80% of people with this cancer die. So what if I do everything right and I still die? And I realized the fear is not serving me. And right now in your life, fear is not serving you. Insecurity is not serving you, most likely. You've got to have faith in your ability to overcome whatever challenges you're facing, whether they're financial or marital or whatever it is. You can overcome anything, you can become anything, and you can achieve anything. And I know it sounds a little cliche, but I believe that it is true. And here's what I did is I went, okay, fear is not serving me in healing from this cancer. I need to replace fear with faith. So I followed the 3 steps that I taught you. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to. I am committed to beating cancer and living to be 100 plus years old alongside Ursula and the kids. No matter what, there's no other option. I read that affirmation over and over and over and over and over, Brian, every single day until I wasn't afraid anymore, because what you affirm becomes your reality. Step 2, why is it a must for you? I had 5 bullet points. Number 1, I'm committed to beating cancer for Ursula, my wife, because I promised her forever and a day. Number 2, I'm committed to beating cancer for Sophia and Halston, my kids, because they need their daddy's love and guidance and leadership, and I want to watch them grow up, and I want to walk my daughter down the aisle, and attend my son's graduation and so on and so forth, play with my grandkids. Number 3, I'm committed to beating cancer for my mom and dad because they already lost a child. My sister died when I was young, and they do not deserve to lose another one. Number 4, I'm committed to beating cancer for myself because, damn it, I deserve to live a long, happy, healthy life. And last but not least, I'm committed to beating cancer for the millions of people who are themselves battling cancer or some other disease and may not have the knowledge and resources that I've been gifted with. And I owe it to them to beat this so I can teach them through my experience and my journey. And those 5 reasons, Brian, were so important, so meaningful, and so compelling that when I was sick from chemo, when my fever was 104, when I felt like giving up, those reasons drove me to just take one more step, give it one more day, and do whatever it took to achieve that outcome of beating cancer. And then last but not least, I had a list of all the holistic practices that I would do to take responsibility for my healing and not leave it up to the doctors, but it was my responsibility to heal. So yes, I'll do chemo, but I'll also I took 70 supplements a day. I did 3 coffee enemas a week. I did lymphatic massage. I did ozone sauna. I juiced. I organic food. I did everything to build my body and immune system up to counteract the chemo's toxicity and beat cancer. And I believe that if it wasn't for those affirmations that became my anchor to keep going every day and reinforce that I was committed to doing whatever it takes, whether I felt like it or not, to beat this cancer for me, for my kids, for my wife, for my parents, for humanity. I don't think I would be here today if it was not for that specific part of my miracle morning during that cancer journey.
Wow. Tell you what, as you're sharing that, you think through, we've all been impacted, whether people were fortunate enough to make it to the other side of that or not. And what I love that you shared is we all have a choice and we get to decide. And you're an example for others to go, yeah, this sucks. This happened. but how can you combat it? And all the things that you chose to do and shifting your focus over there and how you explain the affirmations. I think it's so powerful the way that you got into the details. And for anybody that's listening, you have that option today too, of creating your own affirmations and the things that you're passionate and care about. And if you're fortunate and blessed enough to have, a wife or husband and kids and all those things, like obviously those are there. But I love how you went through all 5 of those and how they all start to expand out. And I just want to tell you, the way that you share your story with the conviction and the passion, it is inspiring and it is changing people's lives. And I'm going to plug the book again. We're going to put things in here. But guys, you have to get this book, right? DM me if you want me to get it for you, any of that kind of stuff. We want to get this in people's hands because it will change your life. And I'll tell you, in very few books that I've gone through recently where I'm like, wow, this is great. I wish I'd had this sooner, right? And I think, Hal, I just want to tell you, thank you for writing it, the things you shared today, because I know people that are listening to this are going to feel something. And our ask, you heard Hal say this, is you got to move that feeling into an action. That would be the challenge and the request is don't just listen to this and go, yeah, that sounds good. That could be good. Decide today you're going to implement something that was shared there. And whether it's the savers, whether it's just buying the book, do something. People are counting on you, and your best is what other people need. And so I know we're going to close up, my friend. What if I not asked you or something that you want to make sure we share with everybody before we wrap?
I think a good way to wrap, kind of 2 parts to this, is number 1, if you're like, I'm not a morning person. We surveyed the Miracle Morning community, hundreds of thousands of people that we've emailed and surveyed over the last 5 years, and asked, before you read the Miracle Morning, were you not a morning person and never believed you could become one? Or were you already a morning person, so this was easy for you? And 72% of Miracle Morning practitioners said they never believed they could be a morning person before they read the book. And I really wrote it that way to hold someone's hand from, I'm not a morning person. In fact, I don't even think I want to become one, to, well, this makes sense, to, I'll give it a try, to, I'll commit to the 30-day journey, to, wow, I've been doing the Miracle Morning for 5 years and it's totally transformed my life, right? So that piece of it. And then the last thing I would say is, to me, you alluded to this, you actually inspired this thought, which is when I started the Miracle Morning, it was a very selfish pursuit. Like I didn't have kids. I was just doing this because my life, I was not in a good place financially and I wanted to turn it around. But now as I'm, 15 years later, and I have two kids and a wife, I've realized that the Miracle Morning, it's not just about me being at my best for me. It's about being the dad that my kids deserve and the spouse that my wife deserves. And the son that my parents, right? Like, to me, it helps me start every day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state. And then I get to show up for the people I love and the people that I lead at my best. And then I win, they win, everybody wins. And so to me, that is the Miracle Morning. It's not about waking up early. You could literally start the Miracle Morning at 9 a.m. It doesn't matter when you do it. It's just starting the first, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes of your day with these practices.
Dude, love it. Hal, thank you, my friend. This has been incredible. And I know this is going to bless a lot of people. They're going to be inspired by this. And as we ask, guys, share this with other people, is obviously getting this message out. I think this is one way that we can all make a difference in that ripple effect in other people's lives. Grab a copy of the book. We're going to include the links in there. And as always, leave a review. Let us know how this has inspired you. Is that some feedback so we know where we can support you as a community? Hal, thank you for showing up. You definitely have a competitive edge that you are sharing, and not only through the Miracle Morning, but all the other things you're doing as a dad and a husband, and you're inspiring people like myself and our community. So thank you, sir.
Thank you for your kind words, Brian. I appreciate you, man.
Guys, this has been another episode of Finding Your Competitive Edge. We will catch you on the next one. Until then, make sure you go out there and do something great. Grab the Miracle Morning. And make sure that you show up today as your best self. Catch you on the next episode.